What's up, Ken? That's funny. Paul is not here yet. Hopefully, yeah. How you doing today? Oh wait, you're in an ad, huh? Not yet. Yeah, you got 30 seconds. Where the fuck is he? I don't know. Let's summon him. The blood ritual. How you doing today? Answer in the next 20 seconds before the ad. Quick. Glad you're back. Missed you. Doing good? Hell yeah. That's what I like hearing. We're doing okay. I'm alive, which is good. For now. I was on the cusp of burnout again, but I think I'm good. I think I'm okay. All right, it's ad time. I think. Here, I'll wait for the ads to end and then I'll start. Especially since I'm still getting ready. You know what's funny? So I'm playing with controller right now, right? And my dumbass, I actually tried using the controller, go from to press continue. You know what I mean? On this screen. Billy Gooth. I'll be right back. I'm gonna take one last minute piss, and then I guess I'll get going. I miss being cum inside, but I have no idea what to say to that. All right, I'll be right back. Hopefully you figure that out. Burnout? Hell yeah, let's go mental. Yeah, feel like I'm about to sometimes, you know? Like I wake up and I'm like, like whatever noise that is, that's how my soul feels sometimes, you know? My soul is tired. That's way I could put it. But it's okay. I'm trying to get that money. I want to rule the world here, dude. Alright, let's this one. The Final Fantasy. It's like my go-to for RPGs, you know? Right on, brother. Alright, yeah, I was playing Animal Crossing. What of it? It's relaxing, okay? Howie Feltersnatch. He's going on the left. Can I fix that, actually? I'm back in the singles club. Girl, same. Do I have to move all the labels over? Is that how this works? I think it is. Let me see. Yup. It's okay. I'll fix it later. Just know that Howie Feltersnatch is hey, what up, Dry? How you doing, dude? Howie Feltersnatch 69 is a goddamn long name. Motherfucker Paul, where the hell are you? Play some Grandia. What up, Dry? I don't think this is going to be a short stream per se, but it's not going to be a long one. I'm probably going to call it by about midnight, my time, which is roughly 3 hours. I think the lack of sleep is really affecting me these days. I'm actually trying to make an effort to fix my sleep schedule. If I could be in bed by like 1, you know, that's a win, okay? No more of this 3 or 4 on a fucking work night. Honey. Oh shit, she just fucking dead named you, dude. Where is Paul? He isn't your ass, right? I don't think he's his ass. Yeah, Grandia. I want to play Grandia too. But I have to finish this one.
Game art.
Eating your ass. Oh, he could be actually. You just assume my ass's identity. You named your beehole Paul. You know what? Just because I like it, I'm gonna watch this video. Listen to the song. Get myself back in the mood. I really can't wait for 2. I know I keep talking about that. Paul Fart, Mall Cop. That's a good one. Go, instead of Paul Revere, you can go Paul Ravine. That work? Or, Paul Bunyan. I think of other Pauls. Paul B. Holmati. I can't think of any other Pauls right now. Oh, there's Paul Walker. Paul McCrackney. That's a good one. That's a good one. Bitch, you're over 30, your dumbass must start sleeping early. You are hitting the ages where you have a sleep schedule. Yeah. No, I know. It's just like, I don't know, past couple of weeks, like I've really kind of been feeling it. So it's like, I'm trying, okay? I have to make an effort, you know? And you can derail so quickly. Like last time I tried this, I was good for like a month, and then I think I stayed up till like 6 a.m. one weekend, and it just like threw me back. Sleep is for nerds. Yeah, I mean that's true. I am a nerd. I'll admit it. But like my health is actually being affected by it now. It's like it's not just like I'm tired. Like now it's like, oh, cortisol's through the roof. Nah, you're a geek. There is a fine line, right? There is a difference. Like dogs to wolves. Where the fuck was it? Okay, Sea Dragon. Dragon D's nuts. DJ Pauly D. That's a good one. Let me check my inventory first. Have you not seen the nerd keep Venn diagram? Oh, I think I have. Or it's like pop culture, like math, you know, like that kind of thing, where it overlaps. Yeah. Is that how you spell Venn diagram? I never actually saw that written. Poly D would have been a good to end with a D's nuts, right? Poly D's nuts. Yeah, you're not wrong. Items. Yeah. Let me drop some shit off. Intelligence, obsession, social ineptitude. I think I'm pretty social. I can be fucking weird sometimes, but I don't think that's my issue anymore. It took a lot of work though. I used to be fucking hella shy. Hey, what up, Cash Cow? Yes, that's how you spell Venn diagram. Well, now you know. You're not socially inept, so that makes you a geek. All right, I'll allow it. I'll allow it. Cash Cow, what are you up to? Did you finish Wonder Man yet? Panacea. What do I have? As long as, like, each one has one. I finished it before you, lol. Okay. Just double checking. Just want to geek about it, but in case these people haven't seen it yet, I don't want to spoil it. But I will say it was damn good. I want more. It's like one of my favorite things Marvel's done. Save now, so I don't have to do that shit again. In case I die. Fuck. Wait, the trees are alive. What is happening? Oh. Very nice. Spoiler, Ben Kingsley is the Mandarin. You son of a bitch! Can you finish me off too? Cash Cow is taken. Well, who said that? Yeah, did somebody take your keyboard? Somebody must have just taken your keyboard. Next, I gotta try to watch Fallout. Yeah, someone took my keyboard. The fucking ghost be bothering me, cuh. Cuh. Jeez. Every time I hear cuh, I think of, do it, he's willing. I think of Paul Walker. Oh, I thought that would kill it. Oh, that's fine. He's stunned. We're good. We're Gucci.
Not bad, eh?
Yeah, Cash Cow. It was crazy. I texted you about it earlier today. I blew my nose, and then like Claire de Lune was playing, dude. I was able to like smell the past. It was crazy. My senses transcend time now. Oh, what the fuck? Wait, that counts as an ambush? I was just standing there, bitch. At least bitch-ass Fina isn't doing 0 or 1 HP damage now. That's good. Note to self, never do elemental damage in this game, if you can help it. Cash Cow, what are you up to? Talk to me, Goose.
We won!
Playing Outer Worlds 2? Oh, nice. How many hours in are you? I never played the first one. It's, is it Obsidian? I was on TikTok and saw an AI of Titanic and Fast and Furious crossover. Shit was dumb, but made me giggle. All the best things that make you giggle are dumb, you know? There's nothing wrong with that. I'm dumb, and I make people giggle. Didgeridoos are fun. I know it's random, but every time I hear it, I think about this one time where I was on shrooms, and our friend had a didgeridoo. We were just playing with it while they were kicking in. We even tried doing like the like you know what I'm talking about? You can hear it in the music when I get out of battle. Do I have the Outer Wilds? I might actually own this fucking game. Let me check Steam real quick. My mouse. I might have this. I just never played it. Sorry, it's important. Library. No, I have Outlast Trials. Okay, for the people who have done drugs, what's your experience like on them? I mean, I guess it depends on the drug. The hardest I've ever done was shrooms, so it was euphoric. My tummy was a little upset, but that's okay because I had a Dr. Pepper, and then I was like, oh, that's fine. What about you? Fina, no! Oh wait, I should be using magic. I realize my magic levels are disgustingly low. Ooh, fuck. And that was actually a lot of damage that she took. Holy shit. I'm like 12 hours in. Nice. I don't even know. It's like space. Like Space Skyrim, right? Space Fallout. Shattered Limit, Shattered, Joseph, Joey, wherever the hell you are. Where is my twerking emote? Space Fallout, nice. I think I asked you this last time because I genuinely forgot. What was like? Who was twerking again? Like, is it me? Is it supposed to be me twerking as an emote? Because I remember mentioning last time too. I think Jay asked for a twerking emote too, of Jay twerking. It was like a cartoon, and I was like, I could do that.
There.
Oh man, he there'd her. Oh shit, she's fucked. You should defend. Especially needs Pikachu, Down syndrome, Pikachu twerking. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I could probably do something like that. My art queue is crazy. In fact, Cash Cow's been waiting like a year and a half on a painting.
Not bad, eh?
Funny enough, I'm not doing shit on Saturday, so I should probably work on it then. I tell you what, it's getting awkward. Oh! Send your Pikachu. That's a funny image. Alright, Fina, you keep just using magic. I'll protect you.
Okay?
I would love to see the paintings. Yeah, I know you. No, don't. And you know what's funny? You moved in, so it's a late ass birthday and housewarming gift, but it is in the works. I promise.
Now you'll be okay.
I don't know if you heard or were you here when I was talking about it, but I've actually been like going to bed early, so I'm not as drained during the day and on my weekends. I mean, I'm still tired, but I haven't been napping, which is nice. I'm trying to save it for bedtime, and yeah, I'm trying to like if I could be in bed by like 1 a.m. and I've been good this week. I've been doing it, so. Which is like a weird thing for an adult to be like, eh? Wait, I forgot, Shattered Limit. What type of bean are you again? Pinto? And a half kidney. I'm also Mexican.
Now you'll be okay.
Hold on. You know, yeah, for reals. That's funny. Oh, I love you too. Thanks, Cash Cow. Just Mex, or was it also another type? I'm just Mexican, and I'm also black. But yeah, for real, dude. 1 a.m.
Not bad, eh?
Honestly, it might have been the exhaustion from last week also helping me out here. That was my cheat code. But it's been working, so no complaints. Wait, what the fuck? Was there like Bigfoot in the trees? What's happening? You guys hear those footsteps? What about you? What are you? You're Salvadorian or something? Mexican? A Mexican black, just make a Dominican dough. I mean, aren't Dominicans black? Because there's ethnicity and then race, right? That's not how it works. Yeah, exactly. No! It's eating me! What the fuck? Okay, alright, I didn't expect that. Did I take damage from that? Or... I'm not Dominican. I'm just Mex. Nice. Just a Mex. Why does it sound like a slur when you say it like that? We got some Mexes over here. Oh, oh, I dodged him. That was cool. In my head, that's how it works now. I mean, if you want to invent your own headcanon, sure. But just know that reality doesn't adhere to that. A Mex in black means hide your lowrider bike. Oh, like, I imagine those ones that like, what's his name, Kevin from Ed, Edd n Eddy? One of those bikes, right? I'd say it would be you on the bike, but you'd probably break it. What's good, my guy? Wait, fucking stop blocking, dicks. Like my bike with no seat. It's like you're, you watched South Park, right? Or at least back in the day. Remember it? Mr. Garrison's bike, where it's just like, the seat's like a dildo, and then the steering is like two things you jack off, and he's like sucking on it. That's your bike. I'll be honest, I actually had one of those bikes as a kid. Oh, nice. You had it? No. one of the Kevin from Ed, Edd n Eddy bikes.
All right.
That explains a lot. First, hey, what up, Paul? How you doing, boo boo? To try to finish this within the next 2 weeks. No more of this MK bullshit. Paul, you motherfucker, I was waiting for you and I've been calling for you. She has been calling for you. But Paul has that effect on the ladies, you know? I was busy doing nerd shit. What's more important than my stream, huh, Paul?
Not bad, eh?
Huh? Oh shit, she leveled up. I'm just mashing A. We were trying to find a good replacement for Discord. Oh, fuck, you're right. Can you keep me posted? Are they actually gonna do it? Are they gonna fucking require, like, I give Discord my fucking ID? That's kind of gross. I forgot about that. Holy shit. It looks that way. So when they inevitably get hacked again, my shit's just online? Fuck you. Only if you watch your porn on Discord. I thought that was a thing, to age verify people. Babysitting your brother can't be considered nerd shit. Wait, have you met him? He kind of needs babysitting. Wait, how, is the game really loud? The game's probably fucking blasting right now, is it? Or is it fine? Actually, it's probably okay. I think the audio levels look fine to me. I'll shut up. Unless you guys are like, it's pretty loud.
All right, we won.
Yeah! All right! Alright. Not gonna lie, being thrown across the map like that actually disoriented me. I don't know where I am. Wait, Paul, can't you just make one? What are you gay? Hey, what up, yeah, boy? Who says I'm gay? You are gay. I like how it's like your greeting. Let's see. Health weed. How are you enjoying the virgin forest? Hey, what up, contextual penguin? I missed you. I'm enjoying it so far. Like, I got a little disoriented because the plant spat me out, and I'm pretty sure that's that humanoid kid over there. If I can find a way over there. I feel like the plants are gonna spit me out. Oh shit! What the fuck is going on? And I got ambushed. How was Sue's farewell? Depressing. I was emotionally ready this time. The first time I played this game, I was like, I mean, it's like I wasn't gonna cry or anything. It's no Final Fantasy X, but I was affected. I got a little emotional. I went, aw, you know, that's a lot.
Okay.
I'm not gonna be a virgin forest for long. It's not gonna be okay. Nice. Well, let me extend this. I have small chat right now. Just see the rest of that fucking message. There we go. It was getting clipped. But welcome in, Penguin. But yeah, Sue's departure is a depressing moment in this game for me. I mean, she didn't die, but it's just one of those like power of friendship things, you know? Okay, Epstein, they're 14. Video calls are hard. Huh?
Now you'll be okay.
It's gonna catch up with you, all this magic negligence. No, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Dude, I remember not really relying on magic the first time I played this. But also, like I said, I prefer. Oh god damn, he's confused. I prefer the magic system in 2. Just to snap out of it. Well, you can get by without it. Yeah, I'll be fine. But I am working on it. Like ever since, because I think you were watching me the last time I streamed this. And it was like those like the mermaid bosses and shit. That was when I was really feeling the lack of magic. So I am doing it. But fuck, dude, it actually progresses insanely slow. Like, how many times do I have to cast this thing before I get a fucking star, you know? Oh, God. Wait, do I have any other... No. Wait, what does this one do? No. It's kind of difficult at first because the AoEs are so small. Yeah, they are. But I'll be fine. I got this. I ain't worried about nothing.
Now you'll be okay.
I just meant broken in as in not too many people walk through it. Fuck, what was I talking about? Oh shit. But by now you should have tier 2 of everything. Well, I
now
don't.
Gonna be in my head for the rest of the day.
Hey, what up, Lemon? You know you're the only one that redeems that?
Okay, that's enough of that.
It's good, my guy. It's gonna feel bad when you need to level it from 1. Yeah, because I love you the most. Aww. Aw, BB. I love you too. And your boy really likes that one. But like I said, I'm working on it. I'm trying to use more magic now. Will it be enough? No. But hopefully it can supplement me just enough, you know? But what are you up to, Lemon? How's your night going?
Not bad, eh?
Oh, and the penguin, you said that I still get magic experience even if I use it outside of battle, right? Yo, I love this one. I like hearing Cyber giggle every time it gets redeemed. I like that one, yeah. Do you remember the next character? It's Guido, right? Some shit like that. Which isn't that like, I don't want to say slur, but isn't that like, okay, cool. Or is that what you're saying? Just for the new Helldivers update, I just booted up the PS5 for the first time. Oh, you're on console, that's right. That's right. I don't think you could say that. Is it? Is it a slur? Let me see. Hey, that's that character's name, okay? I don't care. I had to Google it to be sure. Yeah, I think that's who that dude is on the other side of the wall. I have it on PC too, but it ran like shit last time I tried it. Nice. Grab your browsing history. No! Only everything incriminating. Yeah, dude, I played for like half an hour. What time did we go? Blur. I think I did like yesterday for a bit. And I did it just so I can get like whatever cape for like, cause I forget what it's called, but like the automatons basically have like plans for our Death Star, and I think they're building one, and we were able to hold our ground, right? So now it's like we're gonna attack Cyberstan? Is that what it's called? Well, there's a character named Jim in Mark Oh, like a very fan, but I can't say his name. Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah, dude, we gotta play soon. I actually be down to play Helldivers soon. Probably not tonight, but maybe this weekend. When did you get more mods? Was I high in a coma at some point? No, it all happened like instantly, basically. Like I started streaming and then I was like, I trust you, you could be a mod. And then I still have like 12 mods. I don't really mod other than like try. Like I said, it's more formality. It's like being knighted nowadays, you know? It's like I dub thee a mod. I go fuck off. Yeah, Cyberstat, I heard it's crazy, dude. Have you tried it yet? Oh, clearly. I don't know why, but I'm always a mod for some reason. You're just so fucking helpful. And you offer. You're like, hey, I can do this for you. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. And then it happens. Feels like I'm playing the opening scene in Terminator. Paul! I think he just felt bad for Lemon Wedges. You ever see that guy try and play games? I have. I used to live with him and watch him play games. Dude, one of my favorite Lemon playing a game moments was that butterfly bitch from Elden Ring, I think it was. Was it Elden Ring or no, it was what's the Sekiro. It was Sekiro, and he thought he beat her, but apparently she has different states. And he was just like, yes, yes! He put the controller down. He's like, wait, what the fuck? No! He picked up the controller, he still died. And he was just like, he did like one of those like the side character dies, and then he's like, no! And then the camera zooms out. It was amazing. That's like one of my favorite Lemon playing the game moments. There he is. No, I'm the best mod. Oh, fuck that bitch. And I'm probably the best mod around. I honestly, I would vote Dry best mod. But yeah, I just remember it wasn't no, but he was just like, it was just raw emotion. He's just like, yeah! Like the Elden Ring meme. Isn't there like a skeleton dude or something that screams? He made that noise. Can I be mod? I just want to be able to say I'm a mod. I promise I won't be drunk with power. Tell you what. For now, I'll give you VIP. Did I do it right? I think I did it right. I think I have to do it through here. Hang on. I don't do shit. Yeah, nobody does. VIP. Yeah, boy. Consider this, you're an initiate now. What, are you gay? See, that's not mod language, dude. I'm back from Az. When I find Paul, I'm twisting his balls. I mean, don't threaten him with a good time. Why, long time no see. Oh, that's right. He talks like fucking Jar Jar. How have you been, brave a couple? Oh, it's you. What's your name again? How is this? Have you forgotten me? I'm just gonna talk normal. Aren't you the Moge? Guido? See, that's his name. No, we met at the lodgings in Dite. Hey, how did you know about the brave couple thing? We didn't meet in Gumbo. Well, now, why don't you rest in my tent and swap stories while nibbling on carrots? I feel like the character that talks like Jar Jar, I think is what you're trying to say, is some sort of racial stereotype. No, I don't think so. Nobody talks like that. Who's that? Misa? Like nobody talks like that. Jar Jar. Yeah. Carrots? Yeah, fucking carrots. So I stuttered. Get the fuck in the tent. Well, come on in. Yeah, there's a beautiful bunch of spirits were flying all around us. They were all glittering and sparkling, just like jewels. Really? You saw so many spirits? So the fact you have a spirit stone doesn't hold a lot of significance. Did we see the spirit stone? I don't know anything about that. Guido, who in the world are you? Who the fuck are you? Never said it was just gonna be me twisting his balls. I'm gonna find a diseased squirrel and have it bite them off. Damn. And it's a squirrel too, so it's not like a clean, it's like he has to like nibble it, you know, chew through him. Yo, World Star! What up, Kaiju? How you doing? Well, I'll teach you some what I know out of respect for the hero's armband. What does a spirit stone mean? A spirit stone is proof that the spirits accept the person. You, who has the proof, have a role to play. What is that role? That's for you to find out, Justin. Suffering from a foot injury? How be everyone? Oh, how'd you hurt your foot? Is it like broken? Sprain? I hope you feel better. That sucks. I kind of rolled my ankle a little bit on Saturday, but it's fine. Stepped on a staple strip and cut my foot open. Ooh, fuck. That's fucked. I'm gonna kill Paul. That's how I'm doing. I'm doing okay. I'm working on my sleep schedule. I'm getting tired when I should, you know? Jared, tune in tomorrow morning to my stream. I review my wrestling show. Oh, I was actually watching a little bit. I was too busy. It was like I was lurking, but I saw. I think were you playing with somebody you met on stream, or were you using like their wrestlers or something? I'll try. I could tune in, but I won't be able to like chit chat much. Like you're. I listen. I watch. I wait. I'm playing a fucking game. What do you want? For now, continue your journey. Follow the lead of the spirit stone wherever it takes you. Wherever. As long as you take the right road, you'll get there. You will find your true role. What's wrong? Is there anything else you want to hear? Where is Alette? I had Caillou. Caillou? Oh yeah, go into Gauntlet and within 1 minute he got eliminated. I mean, he's a little bald kid. I would expect him to get his ass kicked by a bunch of wrestlers, you know? Where is Lent? I don't really know. But this much is clear. The one who is qualified to go to Lent has the blessings of the spirits. Therefore, you must always be true to yourself. This is the only way to get to Lent. Be myself? Myself? What's wrong? Is there anything else you want to hear? What do the Moge do? All our people are just traveling to find it. Huh? All our people are traveling to find it. Just as you are traveling to search of a Lent. What are you trying to find? A way to improve things because the whole world will perish. Wow, that must be tough. Wait, what did you just say? The world will be destroyed? What is this, Guido? The world will be destroyed and my true role? What is this all about? Justin, can you confirm that with your own eyes? I thought you were an adventurer. It's all right. Continue to travel, and the blessings of the spirits will be with you. The Mulge. I'm fine now, luckily. Well, that's good. Foot injuries suck. Especially if it's cut open. You can't really walk on it, you know. You gotta worry about it getting infected or something. Besides, there is a difference between playing and being carried, Paulson. Paulson? Nice. I've been carrying dry this week because I'm a gaming god. Watch it. Watch it, boy. Okay, nice. Boy. So you promised me, Justin, don't quit your travels halfway. Huh? Huh? Okay, I promise, Guido. An adventurer never gives up. An adventurer never gives up. Remember those words, Justin. Oh, it's late. Well, stay here today. You just reminded me I watched that movie Primate. Oh, it was fun. Like I said, at no point did the illusion of this chimp being an actual chimp occur. It's always been a dude in a suit, but those kills were great. And I like the premise. You'll reach Kafu when you leave the forest. The people of Kafu, they live in strange houses. All right, cool. Up ahead is a town I live. Oh shit. Little Patton, come see me. Thank you for everything, Guido. Let's eat some carrots again. Dry doesn't count. Dry is 50 and has eyesight of a blind man. You can't tell what the hell he's doing. Is that one? Is that the one from tweeted out with the Obamas? Oh, nice. That's funny. Oh, wait a minute. Aren't you forgetting something? I have my weapons, my armband. I haven't forgotten anything. What are you saying? Money. You up last night? What? Didn't you put us up for free? Suitable returns for suitable work. Isn't that a common knowledge? 100 gold will do. Yeah, it's fine. Great businessman, Guido. Thank you as always. I'll be here for a while. Retired, come again. You win. Well then, Guido, let's meet again somewhere. Fuck off, Guido. I hate you. So why are you catching strays here? No, the horror movie. Did you like it? I thought it was fun. It's stupid. Also, fun fact, I also watched that movie Mark Supreme today. I heard that was supposed to be pretty good. I haven't even seen a trailer, I just see posters and shit. Oh my god. When you were talking about the foot injuries, it reminded me of that movie Primate because the lady that stepped on the glass. Yeah.
Blow, storm, blow!
These are the iron sights for the 1911 came in today. Oh, dude, nice! Those pictures you sent were fucking cool. Paul brought you into the convo when you said he's ass. When I said he's ass. Hopefully it won't cost too much to get them installed. Oh, I thought you were doing it yourself. Like taking it apart and doing it. Cheater. Kidding. Die! Die! Oh shit. Fuck! No! Okay, she's not confused anymore. Good, you dumb. Oh boy, she might die. Dina, no.
Now you'll be okay.
Everything else, yes. Iron sights is a more delicate process. Good to know. Oh, well, I have 1020 vision. I don't really know what you're saying. I'm blind. Don't have the tools for it and don't want to break them. No, that's fair. I don't know why I just imagine you like Tony Stark in it, you know?
All right, we won!
Oh, magic. Let's do magic. Damn things were expensive though. If I had a little bit of money, I would. How much were they? Sure, gun parts don't come cheap. $20.10. 120? Damn. Just get the tools on Temu and YouTube instructions. Yeah, Lemon. Jeez. Fine, jeez.
Oh, wind, twist like a
Yeah, either way,
tornado.
better than normal. My vision's awful.
Blow, storm, blow!
When in doubt, YouTube it out. That's just me chilling out. Die! Don't do it! Don't do it! Okay, cool. He didn't do it, he died. I'd like any tools. But it'll work more than once. Let's try. I study medicine. My autism makes me remember random shit. Wait, did he really?
Not bad, eh?
Why? Oh, okay, okay. Autism makes me like buttholes. Yeah, buttholes and trains. Fucker. And even the plants want me dead. It's like Predator Badlands.
Blaze brightly.
Trains in buttholes? Nice. What kind of grades did you get? Just D's all day, every day? Nice. Nice. Sit the fuck down. Okay, cool. I was worried he would confuse us again. That's honestly one of the worst things in this game. Or at least one of the worst like status elements. In any RPG, really. It's like it's a good mechanic, but it's annoying. I'm like, oh fuck. I'm killing my own team members now.
All right, we won.
All right. Items. What is that? Health weed. Nice. I could definitely use that. Nice fun. Those giant butterflies are going to confuse you. Didn't know butterflies made people gay. Let's see. Slug. Fuck 'em up! Counter, but no cancel. Sick.
What a cinch.
What the fuck? Ah, shit! Is that ambush? Cool. I was majoring in biochem in high school and was taking some classes in UC Davis programs also, and City College. Damn, bruh. I just took art classes, but there was a point in high school where I did want to be a doctor. In fact, I always wanted to be a doctor until I got into art classes in high school. And I got addicted to video games, and I was like, I want to make video games. Let's see how that went. Good shit, though. I studied color theory. The thing that your boy needs to study. 3D modeling. Principles of art.
Not bad,
Elements
eh?
of design. Animation. What would you be a doctor of? Some people call me a love doctor. Damn, he beat me to it, dude. Like just like a general practitioner kind of thing, you know? What's color? Right, this whole time your boy's been colorblind and we're just teasing him. Oh fuck, I wanted to attack the same one. Yo, did you get a PhD? I did not. No, but I have a bachelor's degree. No, but my chest went from A's to C's when I was a second. Wait. What? No, but my chest went from A's to C's when I was in second grade, D's in sixth grade, and double D's in eighth grade. I've already said I'm colorblind. Oh yeah, PhDs, nice. Actually, you know what's funny? I didn't see that coming. You did mention that you're colorblind, but like I meant like grayscale, like a complete, you know. That'd be kind of cool.
Not bad, eh?
That's crazy. Pixar didn't happen. Jesus Christ. Oh shit. Move! I'm cool with... Hold on. I'm cool with no 8th grade picks. That's all lemon. That's how I came across. Someone is jamming out on the didgeridoo. Yeah, they are. They're fucking... I feel like I'm in an Outback commercial. Dude, didgeridoos are actually like fun to play. I don't think you were here earlier, but I was saying one of my favorite memories was it was a shroom night, and our buddy had a didgeridoo. We're just sitting there on beanbags, passing around a didgeridoo. I think we were watching like Rick and Morty and shit. The joke was there, I had to take it. No, I commend you for going there. The grassy, it goes there.
Pretty easy.
That was a very Tekken 2 laugh you just did. Ha 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 ha.
Flame.
Oh, just you? Damn it. Oh, it wasn't even that much. I was doing the shockwave. Awesome. Some good news. I'm getting a new car tomorrow. Oh, nice. What kind of car? That is good news. I have to figure out if I'm renewing my lease or not. Something I don't want to do, but I'm not really in a position to move right now.
All right, we won.
But I have until the end of next month to make up my mind. Like a Mazda CX-5. You know what's funny? I'm gonna nod like I know what that is, but I have to Google it. Nice. Mazda CX. Oh, that's cool. Oh, nice. Oh, wait. More good news. I'm selling my busted asshole card to some sucker tomorrow. It'd be funny if it was your boy. It was a weird experience developing early because my puberty didn't ultimately start until I was 9, which was when I was in 4th grade. I showed signs early when I was like 7 or 8. It's all the hormones in the meat. I don't fucking know. Crazy though. You say double D's? New York boobs. There was a fluoride in the water? For real, I had a 10-inch stick when I was 7. Nice. I'm actually really glad I backed out there. And now I don't know where to go. I think it's pointing over here like, oh, you go this way, but nothing's fucking... Everything's blocked off. Fucking stop. What this? Okay. Okay, I think I have to come across this way around and then go to the right. Oh. I think I have to... Okay. Gotta go this way. Like, I think it commits to a direction. Oh no! I didn't mean to do that! All the enemies just refreshed. Hey, great chat topic. Let's all discuss our own experience with puberty. Joey, you go first. Well, the first time I discovered myself was, nah. I stayed home late, or I stayed home sick, and I was watching, what's that Angelina Jolie movie? Gia or something? I was feeling funny. I don't know where to go, and I'm disoriented. I'm a little lost. I don't know where I am. I hate this forest. Also, the fuck's going on with my frame rate? Yes, double D, 38 double D to be exact. I might have grown an inch now. And maybe a 40 double D, but I don't know. Damn, bruh. You just keep growing. It's alive! Can I, like, choose the direction? Oh, I can, I think. This probably was already. It is. Dude, where the fuck do I go, for real? I have to look up a map? Because I'll fucking do it. I don't even know. What? Fuck it. Oh, cool. All right. On Virgin Force 2, there's the lily pads, and that's the dead end. Okay, it might actually curve around. All right, hey, what up, Frenchie? How you doing, dude? It was late night, and I was watching Cinemax, and Real Sex Talk came on. Is that what that old lady who talks about giving head and stuff? That show cracked me the fuck up, dude. That show was hilarious. Talk sex. But it was at a time where TV would get a little fuzzy, so you would have to hit it a little bit and then twist the antenna, but if you squint in your eyes, you can make out a boob. Oh, it's just like that movie. I hope you had have a good chiropractor. My darling, how are you? We're on puberty talk. Yeah, I don't know how it happened. Oh yeah, Ken was talking about her titties, now she developed early, and now we're all talking about puberty. Sorry, LMAO. No, it's fine. This is an 18 plus stream. You're allowed to talk about your titties if you'd like. Oh God. In fact, titty talk's encouraged. Oh fuck, I should have healed. Why didn't I heal? Did I flee? Didn't mean to, or did I? Ken, you are probably the thirstiest person I've met on Twitch, so I'm gonna say it was on purpose. I meant that in a good way. What the fuck? I feel like that, she get down in a bubble, dog. I'll be like, you gonna tell me I'm wrong? Grow up, bro!
Face slash!
Oh,
damn, they did a lot of damage.
Tornado.
Actually, Jay might be the thirstiest. He literally asks everybody for nudes. But you're like top 3. Show. You met all these other people before me. I'm surprisingly the curveball. Not everybody. Grow up, bro. You stuck my head now. What's up, Jay? Just most pupil. die, don't die, don't die, don't die. I gotta heal after this. I can't heal right now. Okay, I think we might be good. We're good!
All
Hi,
right,
Frenchie.
we
Send
won.
nudes. I want to see that pussy, though. Hey, what up, Travi? Here, I'll DM you my pussy later. You're gonna put me in the same category as Jay. Yeah, different category, right? Same severity, different category. Check your DMs. Oh, do the DM redeem. My pussy brown too. Jesus Christ. I love my chat. Ken, you're literally 10 times more degen than me. Honestly, I don't know. Let's make it like one of those like change my mind things. Debate it. Debate who's thirstier. Or who's more degen. I actually checked like an asshole. That's funny. Trevi, is that the Duolingo bird? Is it? I can't tell. Oh, it is the Duolingo bird. Alright, hold on, one more. You know, without any action, just listening to a didgeridoo while in the menu is just kind of crazy. Alright, we're full health. Can I use one? Run seed. +1 agility. Defeat. Yeah, if you neglect it, you get one too. Alright. Where do? Oh, this way. There it is. I'm glad I looked up that map. Brother, I was lost. Wait. Fuck. Okay. Oh, god damn it, ads. Yeah, yell at Paul more. She did. Nice. Nice, nice. Attack! Oh, he's defending. That was a waste. Oh, what game are you playing? If you're around.
All right, we won.
Risk of Rain 2? Hey, no ad. I don't want to travel to Oregon right now. Was it Oregon ad? Risk of Rain 2. I haven't played Risk of Rain 1. I'm gonna be all confused. Fucking fuck. Alright, discard inventory. I'll get rid of a vaccine. Yes, I got an organ ad. Nice. Alright, let's get the fuck out of here so I can fix my inventory. Or let me get another goddamn character to join me so they can carry shit. This is annoying. Hey all, like my overlays and assets? I've started selling them on my Etsy shop. Feel free to stop by and check them out at https://shatterlimit.etsy.com. You know, again, you could play the second and not be confused. Yeah, I know. That was a joke. I almost dropped my phone on my face. I'm gonna sleep. Night peeps. Oh, that's the worst, man. I've done that. Dude, I've dropped my phone on a girl's face before. I'm like, ha ha ha, ha, look at this. And I just dropped it. I felt like shit. Night, BB. Yeah, peace out, Lemon. Thanks for hanging out, dude. Brain my pussy. You're such a way with words, Travi. What are you up to tonight? You playing anything or just chilling? Fuck! Yeah, hit her again so she's not confused. Is that how that works? I don't think that's how it works. Shit! That's not good. No! No! Fuck. Oh shit, she's cool now. She came to her senses. Once I drop my phone on my dick while recording you, boy. It's starting to chafe. Wait. Real talk though, when did you start playing with yourself? Are you asking me or? One time I dropped my phone on a girl's face when I was recording her sucking my dick. Oh, nice. I'm chilling, playing with my clit. Nice. Tell your clit I said hi. It's starting to chafe. About an hour ago. Sorry, I'm reading chat all left and right. Once I drop my phone on my dick while recording. Yeah, that's that makes more sense. That's pretty good. Instead of that, take care of the ads so I won't be spammed on an ad for your state. I remember playing with myself for the first time like it was yesterday. Right? And then you do this thing, and then it does like that hazy dream flashback transition. No, like at what age did you start?
Not bad, eh?
I think I was 12. Don't care. You already got one today. I got one. What's going on? I thought you were talking about subs or something. I was also 12. I think it's a pretty popular age for that, I guess. Just your afternoon watching the Ben Shapiro show. Is that what gets you excited? Fuck, I forgot to heal. God damn it, why am I like this? What? That's actually hilarious. That's funny. Also, did that echo for you guys too? That's funny.
Face slash.
Honestly, I should take out the butterflies first because of the confused sonar. Yeah, fucking kill him. No! And we're poisoned now? Shit. Oh, she's dead. Thank you for the gift sub, Paul. That was very sweet of you. I was about 12. It's about subs. Then I haven't stopped since. Trevi just subscribed. Thanks, Paul. Paul, you son of a bitch. Did you come today, Paul? He's like asking for a friend. Fuck. Fina, you whore! Fuck. Yep, that's what you get, dummy. Almost 5 minutes. 5 minutes ago? No, it's 5 minutes long. Can you imagine?
That was close.
Antidote. A little too late for that, god damn it. Oh, she's eating. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Damn it, Bobby. Can dead people use magic? No. Damn. All right. I'll waste my fucking resurrection on you. Whack. Like a health weed. Anyways, I started playing myself when I was 5? Watching porn when I was 7? I want to go hide or kill him. Wait. Oh, that escalated quickly. Pretty early, and don't do that. If you do it, well, I'll blame chat. Don't do that, Tim. Yeah, they would find a way to make it my fault. For real though, don't do that. Por favor. Fuck. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're joking, but if not, you know, you always reach out. I don't know, I take that stuff kind of seriously. NoHotels.com ad. I don't want to travel to Oregon right now. Is it the same ad? That sucks.
All right, we won.
Yes. Why do you think it's suggesting Oregon? What the fuck is up in Oregon? Hey, it's a little kid. What's he doing in a place like this? Oh, he's kind of cute. Huh? Who are you? Do you strangers know the password? Oh, you guys have short ears. The last blockbuster. Is that really in Oregon? I kind of want to go. Will it still rent movies, or is it just like just merch and shit in there? A lot of furries in Oregon. Now, how do you know that? Hmm? I'm gonna get my ass eaten there. Is that on your bucket list? The tower rats have come this far. This is terrible. I have to tell Rap right away. Oh, it's Rap. That's the one that joins my party. This guy. Hey, what up, B90? You can't actually rent. Lame. I should open up a Blockbuster right here in my apartment. I have enough VHS tapes and DVDs to at least get you rolling. It's in Bend, Oregon. No, figuratively, I feel very ashamed of myself for flicking the bean early. Also, don't worry, I have a therapist. Well, yeah, that is early, but also good. Yeah, you have a therapist. That's something I should get. I'm only a few hours from Oregon. If you want to stop on an ass eating tour, nice. I mean, I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. I don't think you necessarily did anything wrong, you know. If you just, you know, discovered it early. I beats my dick every chance I get. It's the beats. It's the S at the end of that made that very special. How are we doing tonight? I'm doing very all right. I mentioned earlier that I'm trying my best to fix my sleep schedule.
I hear a voice from somewhere.
Hold on. People are talking over me now.
This force belongs to the people of Kafue. If you value your life, leave it once.
Hey, hey, hey! I don't know who you are, but how dare you threaten me?
Is that all
If
that
you have
early?
something to
I have
say,
no kids, but I
stop
heard it's normal
hiding.
for little girls to
Come
do
out
that.
Coward!
I also beat Travis' dick on the daily. Nice.
Who's calling me a coward? Now you're in for it.
Wild Ditto appeared. Gee, I kind of want one.
See? It's them, Rap. The ones we told you about.
All right, Nikki. Good job. You did good.
Stupid jerks! You'll pay for this!
We're just adventurers passing through the forest on our journey.
Ha,
It is
I never
normal for it to
believed
happen
anything from the
early.
mouth of a broad.
Yeah, it's
Huh?
normal.
What
That's what
did
I'm saying.
you
Don't feel
These
shame.
scum must be
you know?
with the rats in the tower. Take them to town and hang them.
You punks! Who the heck are you?
I'm Rap of Kafoo. Huh. I guess someone needs to teach you a lesson.
So what? You wanna fight?
Please don't do a boss fight right now.
Hey, Nikki, you guys go back to town and tell the youngins.
Why do you want the ditto?
Right.
So I can
Okay,
make it
Rap,
turn into
we're
Sydney
going.
Sweeney?
You play dirty. Can't handle me one-on-one, huh?
You trying to act tough, fool? Don't you worry your little head.
Ditto
By the time I get back here, you'll be hissing.
Don't count on it.
it.
You're the one who's in for a pounding.
Is it normal when you get older to start losing your erection when you hear the god-awful voice acting in Grandia?
Nikki, what's the matter?
I'm pretty sure that's pretty normal. It is.
Ah,
It
you
is.
guys sure are
this
lucky.
is
I'll let you stay alive a
awful
little
voice
longer.
acting. But in a weird way, it is kind of charming. Because I think like all voice acting was pretty bad in like the early to mid 90s. Like I'm convinced voice acting wasn't good until Kudelka and Metal Gear Solid came out. I still stand by it. I think Kudelka has like the best voice acting on the PS1. Perhaps next to Metal Gear Solid, but it's fucking good. Hold on, let me check some shit. Make sure there's no items I'm missing. Some gold. I, for one, actually like the voice acting. I remember last time I tried for like maybe 20 minutes playing this in Japanese, and I was like, nah, fam. I need it. Hold on, let me recover, and then, just to be sure, save again. I like the Japanese voice acting a lot more in this game. That's fair. I think the voice acting in Grandia 2 is an improvement. Like, they actually have people that sound like they know what they're doing. Still fun, but it's not actually bad. Oh, yeah. I mean, what I heard, I think is objectively better. It's just the Warriors had good voice acting. Yeah, it did, actually. Oh, fuck, I missed your Warriors stream. Did you finish it? But, I was gonna say, no, I think this game, for me at least, it belongs in English. Like Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z in Japanese, not a fan. Except for Piccolo. Piccolo sounds like a fucking badass in Japanese. Is Piccolo or Vegeta? Who am I thinking of? Whatever. What? Are you kidding me? You and I are enemies. You fools, who cares about that right now? Unless you two hurry, that poor kid. Track, it's all or nothing now. I changed my mind, the American voice acting is great, and fuck Jay. I'm dragging these balls across your face. Nice. You know, I'm all for a good D's joke. You just spam on my special shit. Arm... Trent? Why is it called Trent? Is this a Treant? Is that the joke? And flower... Alright, let's go to the arm first, because it's closer. And then... Grah, grah. See, fire's probably a good call.
You'll never get away.
Hey, yo!
100 million degrees. Take that.
100 million, that's pretty hot. Oh, not hot enough for only 70 damage each, fucking loser. Alright, shockwave. How many shockwaves can I do? I can do 2, yeah. I do like the music in this game, though. I think the Grandia music's always kind of badass, but in 2 especially. Dude, I'm sitting here glazing 2. I can't wait to finish this sweet-ass game so I can get to the objectively better game. They need to put John Bernthal in this game for voice acting so that he could tell people he's got to tell. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about that confuse. And no naps. Don't you ever hit the snooze spell on me. The world's moving when you're napping, man. I don't trust no guy that naps. Nah, that's not for me, man. What's his fucking... He hates fucking naps like I hate Resident Evil on Netflix.
Here goes!
I'll just somebody that poops. If you poop, that means you got time to sit around doing shit. Exactly. That's his attitude towards naps. Naps fucking rule. Alright, I'm gonna rewatch Heated Rivalry and giggle like the fangirl again. That's funny. Are you leaving us? Are you leaving us for your gay hockey? Not that there's anything wrong with it. But that's all I know about that show. Let me tell you something. Exactly. See, cool. Send some nudes too. There he is. Oh boy. Damn. I think for the most part we're doing okay, but I should heal. Or are you gay? Says I'm gay. You are gay. I love that quote.
Here goes.
Ken, you're not allowed to leave.
Okay?
I won't allow it. So you sit down and enjoy my goddamn stream. Uh-oh. Ah. Okay, we can fuck this guy up now, I think. What? Why? Oh. I like talking with you guys. I don't know if that's been clear yet. I'm nothing without my chat.
You're not gonna get away from this.
Yeah, exactly. We're done when I say we're done. I should rewatch Breaking Bad. I saw it once. If you like chat that much, you'd stream more. It's not that I can't. I know it's a joke. It's not that I can't stream. It's kind of like what you said. It's about priorities. You know, I prioritize work and a social life. What? I'm trying. And I do appreciate the what are you, my boyfriend? If your dick is in my pussy and making me squirt like a waterfall, you have no say, mister. You're like I feel like you would make amazing smut. You should write, you know? But it's like that one show where the dude was playing Jeffrey Dahmer and he had a knife pointed at someone in the chair saying, yeah, exactly. Here, let me get my little vape. Here, hold on, 1 second. All right, we're gonna watch a movie. We're gonna take some pictures, and then you can leave. Or however the line is. But my dick is in your pussy, but it's kind of lame and sad. Yeah, what if instead of squirting, you just cry, you know?
Now I'm really angry.
Or disappointment. I can never beat the Grandmaster whose name is Paul in the Battle of Smut
Big
Writing.
win for us.
Smut off! You guys should all submit a short story smut don't like put your name on it or anything like that, and then we'll all vote. We'll all read it. I'll be blind, you know, so I don't know who wrote what. Unless it's full of typos and bad grammar, because then I'll be like, oh, that's cyber. I actually made money off my smut, but I keeps it private. I'm smut king. Dude, I want to read your smut. One of these days, you'll cave in. So you weren't really winning with those guys in the tower. You helped me look after my guys. Well, everyone makes mistakes, right? Can we just say I owe you one? Nikki! You thank him too. But my dick is in your pussy, but you noticed it because it was like putting a hot dog in a swimming pool. Yeah, what about that? She's probably already gone. Huh? Yeah. Thank you for helping me. Sorry about earlier on. I made a mistake. My name is Nikki. I'm Rap's #1 apprentice. I'm Justin and this is Fina. We're on an adventure journey. Pleased to meet you, Rap and Nikki. Good, Nikki. Good. I say, good. Nikki, you go back first and let everyone in the village know. I'll bring the guests over. Yes, sir, Rapster. I have a tablet, ladies, LMAO. Nice. I do too. Oh, it's being put out. There it is. All my stickers, and there's the screen. There's my stream. By the way, Rat, you said something about rats in the tower? Who are they? Oh, that? We can ask the details from Grandpa. Well, let's go! My village of Kafu is right over there. Actually, let me go back and save. Just in case I die, you never know. I don't want to fight that boss again. That pissed me off. I just realized like there's more forest, that's why. Boy, oh boy, I can't wait to play Grandia 2. It's a huge poopa. For your information, I have a tight entering. I would just get wet very easily, so no lube needed unless you're entering my asshole. Are you taking notes, Paul? This will be on the test. No, I didn't mean to pick you. Oh, he's got fucking like ninja stars too. He's new Sue. He's just not as sweet. Sue was like my favorite character, so when she left, I felt it.
All right, we won!
Fucking Paul baits me into exposing myself more. Did he bait you? Oh, you know what? He did. Yeah. Sorry, I read his last message again. The whole hot dog thing. Either there's a delay or that was a fairly slow response. What a bitch. Yeah. I mean, he's a bitch regardless. But I feel it. Baits. Jay's doing like that meme of the guy who just looks at the camera and he's like, like that. Yay, I have a new party member, so I can carry all this bullshit. A Meryl? No, give me the Ditto. I want Ditto. Where the fuck did you guys come from? motherfucker. This guy use shockwave.
Here goes!
Damn, you guys really recovered from that quick. Wait, are they all armored? God damn it, Fina. What the fuck is up with your guy? Do I need to give you a knife? Is that what it is? For your information, no entering feels tight to my microphone. Tail attack. Alright, Fina, just stick to magic for now. Uh-oh.
Now you'll be okay.
All right, we won!
You probably will do pelvic exercise. I do pelvic exercise to help. Oh, god damn it. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. The ad break. Ambushed? How'd that happen? No, 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 no. No, no, no. Do I have a means to cure that? Nor. Don't do it, Fina. Bitch.
There's no use in hiding.
I do gaping exercise on my anus, so I can't feel anything back there.
Not bad, eh?
Subaru, I already donated clothes and food. What more do you want? Subaru. Oh, fucking. It's nice knowing the specific ads. Jay, what are you playing tonight? Wait, Ambush again? Oh, anime game with anime titties? Why, hello. What game is it? I'm asking so I know to avoid it. Shit! Actually, wait, do I have a charm that prevents confusion? I actually think I might, and I'm just being a dum-dum. As usual. I'm playing whatever she's talking about. Do it! Cool. I'm back. Welcome back.
All right, we won!
All right. Let's do magic. I'm black. When did that happen? This whole time? I didn't know that. That mean Jay's black too? That would explain a lot of things. How dare you? Is that an ambush too? It'd be really annoying. Cool. I got the advantage. Bitches. Wait, but she doesn't do shit to these guys. the other ones. Oh yeah, it's like the green little lizard-looking guys. Those are the ones that it doesn't hurt. I'll try like fire magic on them next time.
Won!
It's certainly better than 0 if it does do anything. Oh, you too? Damn. Fuck him up! Okay, I wasn't sure if he would connect that hit or not.
Not bad.
See, that moment where he could have hit me and interrupted my attack, you know, but like the time froze and I was able to kind of do it first. Like, Grandia 2's combat is like all that, you know, like, and here it's like you can not necessarily ignore it, you know, but like it's definitely more engaging in the next one. I mean, I could probably stream on Saturday. I'm just thinking ahead. I'm probably gonna stream tomorrow. That should work out still. Yeah, I'm streaming tomorrow.
Not bad, eh?
What the fuck? Dude, I'm tired of getting sucker punched by the goddamn trees. How much damage did that do? I should have healed. Okay, go for the fucking butterflies first because fuck them. It's a moth, not a butterfly. Stupid. Oh, actually, that's a good idea. Because he would be next. I was just at someone's garage door that was kind of open, but I made my car on the... Yelling more? Okay, hold on. Oh, this music's fucking loud. I was just at someone's garage door that was kind of open, but I made my car on the street and someone came from the garage while I was putting in my notes and said, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm just doing my job, sir. I saw your garage door was open and I was supposed to pay my notes." He said, "Get out of here." And I said, "You are doing something suspicious. Are you doing something suspicious that you don't want me to know about?" And then you got all mad and started yelling more. That sucks. Are you like in like a gated community or something? Is that what you do security for? Does your car say fucking security on it, or is it like your personal car? Because that guy could just be being like a douche, you know? I mean, it sounds like he's being an asshole anyway.
All right, we won!
You ever encounter a motherfucker that is just like kind of like unreasonable, and you're just like, you just want to fight? That's all this is. You just want to fight. Yeah, it's a gated community, and the car has a giant sticker from the company I work for. Well, tell me he's a fucking idiot. Like, sir, clearly I'm fucking trying to keep you safe, all right? Stop being a bitch. Oh shit. Get him. Okay, cool.
won!
Yeah, one person I was writing a ticket to came out and threatened to shoot me if I put a ticket on their car, and I said, do it if you want, and he never did. That's a pretty badass response. Just be like, hey man, go for it. That's why I'd probably be like, look man, I got like a meeting in like 3 hours. I don't really want to go, just come on. And I'm like the Joker. I'm like, come on, come on. I want you to do it. No, I said do what you won't. Oh, okay, I read that wrong. Sorry, because like, yeah. I'm used to it correcting you to other shit. Oh fuck, do I have it's rid of Doom or whatever this is. Plague. Pretty sure that's Plague.
There we go.
Do what you won't. That's pretty good. When I said that, I should have said finally. Yeah. You're like, thank you.
All right, we won!
Promise? Or I'll do the what's his name from Leonardo DiCaprio's character in Django? It's like the you will? H seed? No takes backsies. No take backsies? Yeah, that's a good one. Plus 1 max MP for levels 1 through 3. Yeah, 16. Honestly, with him, I want more SP. I'll give her the mage seed. That's fine. Right, and he doesn't. And I'm like, I'm giving you a ticket again because you said you'd shoot me. Promise. Ah, fuck it. I don't care. It's just gold. Give me gold back. Oh shit, that music. Hold it, Rap. Who are these people? Huh? Didn't Nikki tell you? I got a couple guests. I heard you have guests, but we sure didn't hear about them being short-eared guests. Like racist against people with normal ears. No, I'm used to people making empty threats on my job. I'd be surprised if someone went through with their threats. Yeah, a lot of people are all bark. Does doors need WD-40? Yeah, right? Never forget it's against village law to allow outsiders in, would you? After all, you're the elder's grandson. You've done that for ages. Stop moaning. These guys are my guests. That's all you need to know. So fuck off! Okay, calm down, Rap. I understand. Okay, I'll trust you. We will consider your guests as our guests. I don't suppose we have a choice since you're so adamant about it. That's right. So, would you mind going to hear what my grandpa has to say? I would mind, actually. Grandpa has some strict laws, one of them being no outsiders are allowed in the village. Your ears must be this long to enter. Hey, are you saying my guests can't come into my village? Rap, even you remember the tragedy that befell us when the laws of this village were not upheld? Sure. Weapon stow? You're an ICE agent? Honestly, I'm not feeling giving her anything with the elements. But poisonous, that might do it. That might be the one. So, Fina, you get this. Oh, we're gonna trade though, right? Is that how? No? Okay, whatever. Snake whip. Trade, here we go. Hot whip. And even though maybe water in this area. Yeah, but it's all swampy. I'm pretty sure all the enemies have water elements, you know? Justin gets a sword or an axe. Oh wow, my sword's already better. Bullshit. Alright, no weapon for you then. Bitch. No, basically, wait, what? Oh, basically a meter maid. You know who you need in your party? Christian Slater. Why Christian Slater? Which Christian Slater? You're talking about the one from like Interview with the Vampire, like that era? Tales from the Dark Side, the movie? Or is this more like Alone in the Dark? One of the worst movies I've ever seen. Or Mindhunters, another bad movie, but I remember like I didn't hate it. Yeah. You get that. I'm surprised you didn't say Nick Cage. Oh damn, that's actually really fucking strong. A 19 defense? I don't even have enough money for that. Holy shit. Oh, she needs it the most. Damn. I can only buy one. Holy shit. Let me see if there's anything else I could sell. That sucks. We get my stash first. Oh no. Oh, and then magic. I have no mana eggs. Oh, that sucks. It would change depending on what mood he's in. Okay, that's cool. That's actually kind of a cool power. Like you can I'm trying to think of like who would be the best actor for that, but like you like an actor's a superhero and then he can like summon the abilities of a role he's played. Like you could be Tom Cruise in like every other fucking movie, like, oh, I got vampire powers now, or I got fucking super spy powers, or I'm the mummy or some shit, however that movie ends, I forget. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, that was kind of cool. What am I gonna sell? Oh man, I haven't even been using none of these. Plus 15 action has 1 star. Honestly, dude, I'll reduce the action if I gain SP. Hello, Governor. Angel! What's good? How you doing? How was your night going? Are you winning? What does he have right now? He's got black belt. And 2 action, 2 move. Pretty good, pretty good. That's good. I like hearing that. Running 7 days with the homies. I never really played that, but you seem to really enjoy it. Angel baby girl, who's that? How's the stream going? Stream's going pretty well. I'm still on the quest to finish this so I can enjoy the better sequel. But it's going pretty well. Jason Statham, because he would morph into his holes as a beekeeper that's actually an assassin or a working man, and then he's an assassin. What it do, shoddy? Let's go with it. They said you can stay at the end? Are you crazy, Rat? No, we can't let outsiders stay here. Their ears are all short. Look, if I clear it with my grandpa, you can't complain, right? Let's hurry with my grandpa's. Save the fucking game. You're my background entertainment as I grind. Hey, yo! Well, that's nice to hear. Sorry it's not Tomb Raider. I really did want to finish that before getting back to Grandia, but there's a bug. I want to fix it. It keeps crashing. I think you were there when it happened. Like when I opened the parachute when I'm in like Kazakhstan or wherever the fuck that level is. It crashes at the same part. I don't mind. Play what you want to play. I want to play Resident Evil 9. I got my pre-order. And I gotta put in my PTO. What's today's date? Okay, yeah, I gotta do it this week. Baka! You just gotta do more than try. Gotta learn to move quickly. You know what game doesn't crash? If you say Sword and Sandals, I'm gonna ban you. Don't do it. Don't do it, you boy. You gotta quickly approach your enemy and then get him with one blow. That's the only way to do it. Let me find this fucker's grandpa. You know what's funny? I read that as like Muscle Man. But you know who else doesn't? You know? House 4. No. Sword and Sandals. He's spelling it. Holy shit. You smartass. Both of yous. I'm gonna start handing out bans like I'm Oprah. Check under your seats, cause you get a ban. You get a ban. Everybody's getting banned. This where the elder is? The fuck is my grandpa? Is my grandfather? Oh, it's probably. Oh shit! There's actually a whole network up there. There it is. Found it. You know, I also kind of wanted to stream Super Mario World for a bit, just because I was like in a Mario mood, which I'm never in. It just came up a lot, and I was like, I could play that. But I was like, no, Joe, stop wasting fucking time and play Grandia. That's right, you'll never play 2. I'm waiting for you, Rap. And who do we have here? Oh god, you brought them short ears in my house? Oh, this here's Justin and Fina. They've been a big help for Nikki. Now I can see how folks might mistake you for those people in the tower. You look a lot like them. Racist. Those abominable people in the Tower of Doom. What's the Tower of Doom and who are those people? People of Kafu have not always lived in this area. The forest where we used to live has been turned to stone and destroyed. It happened right after those evil people finished building their Tower of Doom near that forest. That's terrible. Yes, Rap. Are you going there today? Old Kafu and the Petrified Forest? Yeah, of course. You know, I go there every day so they don't get lonely. Aw. Rap, could you take us there too? Petrified Forest? Huh? You plan? You know, like your kind around here, you stub-eared bottom feeders. I just got to see it with my own eyes. Please, Rap. Please. Okay, have it your way. Your adventure types sure are weird. All right, so let's go. The Petrified Forest is north of here. Everyone, follow me. Wait, Rap. I know you've been told this before, but Kafu is a gated community. We made a special exception for you as Rap's guest, so please do not cause any trouble. Fine. Whee! All right, let's go. I have to go north. Wait. Find the first. Am I tripping? Yeah. Do I have to leave the town, or is there like an exit back here? Let me try leaving and see if there's like a new area on the map. Fucking move. Actually, can I recover and save? Now that my grandpa's cool with it. But no meals. Fine, dude. Well, You can at least rest here, even if that's all we can do for you. Thanks for nothing. Save. Petrified Forest! Here's what I'm gonna do though. I'm gonna go pee, and then I'll be right back. Jay, no, you can't leave me. Good night, dude. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you. I'll check in your stream in mañana. wow. The way the audio kicked in, like that like background noise, I actually thought it was a clip. Excuse me. How much damage? Yeah, you attacked the wrong one! Curl gas. How about, I think this is the first complete day I haven't smoked a cigarette. In how long? Since birth. Oh shit. I didn't know he was gonna move in the way.
Quick like a tornado.
But good. That's good. Today was the first day. Yeah, but since when was last time? I mean, you had to start at some point, right? Like, in how long have you not done that before? That you started, and when did you start? Wait, an ad already? Wait, were we just in ads? Oh, I misread that because that's funny. It was the countdown. Kill him! Just beat the shit out of him.
All right, we won!
Money. Oh wow. Damn. When I was Nikki's age, those guys show up in that cursed tower, then the village was turned to stone. Those who survived that time built the current village. Since I was a little kid, I couldn't do much work, but I became absolutely determined to destroy that tower when I grow up. Good for you, man. You. What are those round rocks? They're my mother and father. I always polish their stones, so they become quite round. They get turned back and they're just like rubbed. They're like, ah! Like ground down. Let's destroy that tower now, Rat. Yeah, let's go. Justin. This is... That ain't right! How about it, Rat? Even if I wanted to destroy it, could we? Just us? We can do it, sure. We have to do it. Ah, good guy, Justin. Okay, let's go, Just. Right. Let's go! Wait, did you just call me Just? Well, I'd fall asleep by the time I said Justin. Just 2 syllables. It was like Samanosuke or something. But anyway, Just is fine, so it's just. Come on, the cursed tower is on the other side of this forest. Yeah, I'm excited. We still have like about an hour. If I can wrap up this, we make some good progress. Are you an enemy? Oh, you're people. Even a child like this one here has a little brother. When he turned to stone, the little brother was really upset. He was crying. I want to be away, but for my big brother, I'll turn to stone and stay here. Aw, what can I say? We all know how it feels. I will avenge him. Ooh, piece of candy. Gold. Gold. What is this? Gold? A mage seed. Let's have Justin use it, actually. Oh, what the fuck? What's this over here? Gold. Probably wants me to go that way. Oh shit. Congrats on that first day though. Good boy. If you had to live in the last game you were playing for a year, and if you died in real life, but if you lived for a year, you would get 10 billion, would you do it? How long do I have to live in the game? I'm streaming this. Does this count? Because other than that, my last game would be Animal Crossing. That sounds lovely. Did I get ambushed? Okay, good. Yeah, it depends on how long I have to live in the game. Kill him! Dude, 10 billion's a lot.
All right, we won.
Oh, for a year. My bad. My bad. I missed the for a year. Yes, the game where you're in debt to a raccoon. Yeah, but I mean, there's like no due date. There's zero interest. It's actually a very generous loan, all things considered. Yeah, dude. I'll live in there for a year. I'll live in there for 2 years. Shit, double it. Consider it a vacation. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I would do it. You can see, look, the last game I played was Animal Crossing. That was today. Today! Damn good deal. I'll make that deal. Stop poisoning me! Oh, he's defending. Fuck, I should have done that. No, I asked that, and then he didn't answer. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could live here for a year. I mean, I don't have to be on an adventure. I could just hang out in one of the villages. I'll stay at that love village. They get freaky there. And if I die, cool. I can end this bullshit. I can die.
Not bad, eh?
Technically, this isn't my last game played. This is the current game I'm playing, right? Last game would be past tense, and it would be Animal Crossing, right? Will that hold up in court? That's how I interpret it, actually. I don't know. Either way, I'll take it up. It could be Resident Evil, and I'll still do it. There's not a lot I wouldn't do for 10 billion. I knew it. Right. Ooh, life seed. That's like saying I didn't steal that money from the bank. I took out a loan, but I'm just not paying back. And I used a gun to get it. No, that is not the same thing. Nice try though. It's way more severe. I'll have to ask Paul and Jay, but everybody else that chats here left. I think Ken dipped out so she can go goon to her hockey show. Just me and you boy. Max HP. Does Rap leave my party or does he stay? I'm gonna Google it. Okay, cool. He's one of the final. Okay, then yeah, I'll give you the life seed. Oh, nice. All the haters are gone, and now you can quit pretending you don't like sword and sandals. All right, now that they're gone, best game I ever fucking played, bro. I want to personally thank you for introducing it to me, and you and I we're officially brothers now because of it. Okay. Now that they're gone, I could probably stream that instead of this, actually. With this audio, I feel like I'm like falling from the sky or something. This way. And then you fuckers are playing sonar? Good. Bitch. Didn't you say there's like 5 Sword and Sandals games or something like that? I knew you were gonna clip that, you fucking bastard. Well, let's see it actually. Now everyone will know. Unless I delete the clip. I was kidding. It's probably funny. I'll keep it. Let's see, is there a scene where? Yeah, let me turn off. Play capture? Gonna work? Why doesn't display capture work all the time? Weird. You guys can't see it. Yeah, you see black screen. Why are you like this? Play. Properties? Okay. Is it there now? Okay, yeah, it is. Oh, nice. All the haters are gone, and now you can quit pretending you don't like sword and sandals. All right, now that they're gone, best game I ever fucking played, bro. I want to personally thank you for introducing it to me, and you and I we're officially brothers now because of it. Okay. All right, it'll stay. Thanks. That's pretty good. All right, cool. Man, I gotta fix my scenes. Yeah, those haters. Welcome back, Paul. Now everyone's gonna know. Are you also playing Schedule 1, Paul? And did you find a Discord replacement? I want to at least get to the Tower of Doom, or whatever they call it. Oh shit. I could do this. Oh, it hits other people on the way, dude. I actually didn't catch that. You're gonna raid into someone's stream and the Eclipse is gonna play. Then they're gonna be like, what's this sword and sandal? Oh, the Eclipse. That's funny. And then they're gonna look it up. And they're gonna be like, oh, what the fuck's wrong with that guy? That game? It looks like, yeah, like I said, like a Newgrounds game from back in the day.
Not bad, eh?
Flip and Eclipse. Yeah, I had to read the rest of that. It's the speech to text. It gets me every time. Man, you know what I'm craving? Some fucking hot pot, dude. I want. It's what I need. Oh, fuck. Oh, I'm in a maze. Oh, man. You know what? I actually have that site still open. I'm gonna cheat. White Forest. There we go. I'm not missing any more mana eggs. Oh, shit. I keep forgetting to heal as usual. He's just gonna defend, so he's fine. Don't worry about him. She gotta heal. Just go eat some bread and melt some cheese at home. It'll be cheaper. Isn't hot pot just fondue? No. That's like calling ramen chicken noodle soup. And I think fondue is explicitly cheese unless mentioned, right? Like, I guess there's like chocolate fondue. It's funny though. I think I have bread and cheese. Oh, dude, actually, grilled cheese does sound kind of nice. I don't have American cheese though. I have like, I don't know, whatever the Colby? Is that what you call it? I think I have that. And not American grilled cheese is just crazy.
Now you'll be
Ramen is
okay.
not chicken noodle soup? No, it's not. It's ramen. It's like fucking... You're like Lemon right now. I mean, he called fucking everything hot pot. Spaghetti is hot pot to him, you know? And he was like, well, look at the definition. And it's like raw ingredients that are made in a pot with like broth and it's like cooked, you know? Have you ever seen Gordon Ramsay try to make grilled cheese? Oh, have you ever seen Gordon Ramsay try to make grilled cheese? It's hilarious. I have not, actually. I fucking love Gordon Ramsay. Gordon Ramsay takes two of the most driest cheeses that crumble I've ever seen to make grilled cheese. He's like so out of touch when it comes to just basic ass food like that. Like I saw a video of his son even. And he was just like, dude, like I like this stuff. It's like, wow, but I can make this for you. And he's like, dude, sometimes I just want the normal shit. Like I don't like your mushy, fluffy scrambled eggs or whatever. He was like talking shit about some of his food. He's like, I just want like
All right, we won.
grilled cheese. It doesn't have to be fancy. What cheese did he use? Like feta or something? Wait, magic, stupid. Jesus Christ. I miss Penguin. Come back, Penguin. I'm being serious. No, I know you are. I know you are. I just haven't seen it. I think I've heard about it actually. I'm trying to make grilled cheese. It looks like the worst grilled cheese I've ever seen. Dude, I want some grilled cheese right now. Why are you doing this to me? I'll do some slutty things for grilled cheese right now, dog. There they are.
Here goes!
Here goes. It kind of reminds me of what's his face? Midberry Crunch from South Park. He goes Shamblagoo?
Pretty easy.
Is what he used. Oh, Romano cheese with pepperberry and Asiago cheese. What the fuck? That's insane. Stop being weird, Gordon. Are you still poisoned? She is still poisoned. Gordon Ramsay, stop being weird. Make your own grilled cheese. Dude, I want grilled cheese right now. What have you done to me?
There's no use in hiding.
Die, motherfucker, die, motherfucker, die.
What a cinch.
Imagine taking 2 pieces of the sandpaper and telling people it's grilled cheese. You know what's funny? The thought of chewing on sandpaper actually kind of messes with me a little bit. Have you ever seen Barry? There's that part where they're fucking like filing down Homeboy's teeth. Ah! That fucks me up. Can you imagine? Uh-oh. Well, what you should do, as they were saying, is make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I don't have peanut butter or jelly. And once you've constructed the sandwich, dip it in egg, then cook it in a frying pan. Then you have fried PB&J that has French toast. And make sure to use syrup. That actually does sound pretty good. Damn, dude, that sounds pretty good. Like, PB&J French toast? French toast PB&J? However you want to word that, yeah. Because what I would do is I'd probably... I definitely want to crisp up the inside. Because I lightly toast my PB&J. Just for the texture, I think keeping that firm would be kind of cool. So I'd probably toast it a little bit, make the PB&J, and then French toast it up. Sear it, you know? They get the fucking butter or powdered sugar and then syrup, yeah. Fuck you, boy. God damn, you're making me hungry as hell right now. Stop it! That's one of the items I would cook on a food truck when I was trying to start a food truck. That you would cook on a food truck. Oh, when I was trying to start a food truck. You tried starting a food truck? That's kind of cool, dude.
$100,000,000 degrees. Take that.
All right, they're all just attacking. That's good. I just don't want sonar.
Burnout!
Oh, those games are great. I miss Burnout. Bring Burnout back. fucking sonar. Step out of it, you dumb bitch. Do I have anything? I guess technically that would work. I did try to start one, but I never got to open it. It ended up getting impounded when they broke down. Ended up getting impounded when it broke down at a rest stop when I was trying to drive it to from Texas to Florida. What part of Texas? That's a pretty long drive, but that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that, dude. Also, did I just heal myself? God damn it, Joey, you fucking dumbass. Oh no, I got her. Okay, it looked like it was on Justin instead of Fina.
Not bad, eh?
Uh-oh. Forgot about the, yeah, iframes. They really kind of fuck you with that one. Do it, Rap. You're my only hope. Shit. Don't cancel it, please. Bitch.
There's no use in hiding.
I do not have antidotes, but I might have. No, just stick it out, buddy. It was in Florida, and I was trying to drive it to Texas. Oh, to Texas from Florida. Sorry, man. I was in Florida. I was trying to drive it to Texas where I was living. I got it in Florida down from my mom's house, but it was a buy as a private seller. He told me he would make it. He drove from Indiana to Florida, no problem. But yeah, he was trying to sell it. But that fucking sucks, dude. Did you just have to like leave it, or did you at least get to sell it for parts or something? It was totaled. Yeah, that blows.
Not bad, eh?
Wait, where am I? Yeah, I was cheating. There was an item this way, right? And it's like a dead end. Yeah, I got something, so yeah, that's where I'm at. I like how it sounds like I'm on fucking hardwood. Or something. Nice try, bitch. Oh, it got impounded, so I tried selling it from where it got impounded at, but it didn't work. I'll start it. It won't eventually. Are you gonna start it in Florida? Good luck, bro. That's pretty awesome. Oh fuck, I'm still poisoned too.
Ha! Take that, I'll kill ya!
Uh-oh. Kill him, kill him, kill him, kill him. Shit. Oh, that actually might have worked. Yo, it's the light.
All right, we won!
Alright, you got antidote. You got an antidote. And... ooh, your healing is getting slightly better. Alright, good for now. Alright. I am cheating now. Item right here. That, and there's some shit over here too. Oh, there's a seat of defense all the way over there. Did I get that one? I don't think I did. I don't think I did. Alright, get these motherfuckers out of here. End him. Before it's too late.
Not bad, eh?
Swallow hat. What does it say? Oh, confusion resistance. Fuck yeah, dude. Get stoner all you want now, motherfuckers. Doesn't matter anymore. Alright, where am I going again? Which is down here? Alligator. Let's see how this goes. Oop, that's not good. Kill them all, Justin.
Here goes! Now
Oh boy. Oh god, that's actually awful. What are you weak against? Oh my god. Justin, run.
we're in trouble! Retreat!
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Holy shit. I don't think I've ever had to run away before. I looked it up and I was like, no. Alligators are, however, weak to all elemental magic. Okay, I should be attacked with player's strongest magic. I don't have a lot of strong magic. That's okay. We run away like a little pussy now, and then when I fight another one, I'll be ready. I just don't want to die, because that'll send me back like a whole 30 minutes, you know? Anybody got time for that? I had defense seed. It was a rat. And then no. Yeah, that's fine. Well, we're immune to the sonar bullshit, so I don't have to focus fire on the moths anymore. Oh, get the fuck out of the way. Nice, nice.
All right, we won!
Ha! All right. No more alligators, please. They're scary. There should be an item down here. And all the way up here. Damn, 4 of them? Bring it on.
Not bad, eh?
Eh? Nice. Thank you for the redeeming. Alright, he got the defense seed, and I want him to use it this time. That's right. Eat up, Justin. Go big and strong. When are you going to put the redeem? Why are you gay? Probably never, to be honest. Like, I think it's funny, but I'm not trying to potentially offend anybody, you know? It's a little too risque for me.